John, want to do that?
Nope.
Oh, okay. We open the meeting at 7:04 on January 13th, 2014.
Second?
Second, John Melcher.
All
Susan
those in
Elmore?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Charlie Costello. Frank is here. And first up for tonight's meeting is Cheryl Knutson of the program that we have been working with the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator with the Northeast Public Health Coalition. And thank you, Cheryl, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to come out and talk with people in the towns. And I myself am on the Topsfield Board of Health, so I know about meetings and how valuable your time is and all the important things that you do talk about. But I'm here to talk about public health emergency preparedness. The coalition encompasses 14 cities and towns that stretch all the way from Topsfield up to Haverhill, over to Ipswich, over to Middleton. And the concept of public health emergency preparedness really probably took off right after the 9/11 terrorist attack. But what happened after that, you may remember, there was anthrax was sent through the mail, and people, quite a few people died, and that was just from the mail attack of the anthrax. And so suddenly people realized that the concept of bioterrorism was a real one, and they began to identify all the different agents that could be used in bioterrorism, and then they also realized that there really was not a good public health infrastructure in this country to deal with a public health emergency like that. We have police and fire who deal with explosions, and the FBI and all of that. But the only hope we would have in a bioterror attack would be to get some either antibiotics or vaccines to the public. And who would do that? The police aren't going to do it. The fire department isn't going to do it. It's going to be public health. Whoops, we haven't been planning enough for that. So they started putting a lot of money into public health emergency preparedness, and that money is located in the CDC. And you could go to cdc.gov/bioterrorism and read about this for weeks and weeks if you wanted to. There's an awful lot that's out there. And so the money started to come out in about 2002, and certainly in Massachusetts it's very important to get this money out to the local level, since the local level is where the public health authority sits in Massachusetts, as opposed to the other 49 states. So we have a unique challenge. If we were to try to get antibiotics or vaccines out to the public, each city and town would have to do it. The state is not coming in to do this. The county's not coming in either. So one of our challenges was to create something that would explain this whole thing to the general public. And we created these little booklets. They're kind of unique to this coalition.
This is a copy
That's
of
a copy. That's your Rowley booklet.
Okay.
We have there's Georgetown, Middleton, Newbury, Topsfield was the first one. They're kind of all the same, but they're customized. And so in your Rowley booklet, and I was going to show it up, and he was going to get a picture. It's not only pictures of Rowley on the cover, but inside there's Rowley phone numbers and Rowley contact information, so that it really kind of brings it home, because a lot of times there's an awful lot of print material on emergency preparedness, and people look at it and they think, well, that's never going to happen in my But when you see the picture of your nice town on the cover, you say, oh, that's my town. And then you open it up and there's your phone numbers. And it tells you what to do. And in the middle of the booklet, there's two things. One is a little paper with a plan. You can actually cut this out, fill it out, keep it in your wallet. And then the other thing, this 911 disability indicator form, which is something that exists in every town, but a lot of people don't know about it. And if there's somebody in a house that who has a disability, they can fill this out and send it to, hopefully it's got the Rowley information on it. Because amazingly enough, I think this is a two-sided form, which only came out one side.
So we're going to get digital. Are we going to get digital copies of this book?
You've got a digital. Frank's got a digital
copy.
Yep.
Hey, can I interrupt and just kind of clarify?
Yep.
So are you planning to get this circulated?
Yes, we need to print them similar to the other
Yep.
towns did. And then
On two sides?
Yeah, and circulate.
Okay.
There's also a digital file which can be put on your website,
Yeah.
and it's different from the print file. So, because it won't come out good if you use the wrong one. But you put that right up. We've got it up on our, if you wanted to look at the Topsfield one, it should be right up on the Topsfield Board of Health website. I think Newbury and Georgetown have it up too. And the nice thing about this book is it's sort of an introduction to the whole topic. So let's say Frank wanted to take this information to another group, as we did in Topsfield. We took it to the department heads, and we had the police and the fire and schools, and everybody was there. And we started out with the booklet and said, you know, everybody would need to make a plan, write down their medical concerns, health concerns, and then it gets into, are you going to, in any emergency, are you going to stay in your house or are you going to evacuate? But then eventually it gets into the sort of the purpose of it, how to get medicine in a public health emergency. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because we would be opening an emergency dispensing site. In every other part of the country, they call it a point of dispensing, but Massachusetts, we call it an emergency dispensing. So you'll see a pod versus, we call it an EDS. So what I was going to start with is a 4-minute movie, which really gives you, it's worth its weight in gold, because let's see. Oh, I talked a little bit about anthrax. You have a fact sheet in your packet about anthrax, because all of our planning is based on anthrax, because it's probably the worst case scenario. It's the worst germ. It can be weaponized, and it can be, you could put it and spread it easily, spread it in the population. And your only hope would be to get some antibiotics within 48 hours of having this exposure. And the responsibility of the town would be to give the antibiotics to the entire population of the town within 48 hours of the exposure. It's a pretty tall order. So I'm going to show this little movie. It starts right out saying, and don't worry, you have a transcript of it in the packet. So it starts right out with anthrax released in the subway.
Imagine it's Monday morning. Thousands of people in your city hurry to work and school. However, on this day, terrorists have released anthrax spores in the subway system. Tens of thousands of lives may be endangered. It will take several days of investigating before officials pinpoint exactly who has been exposed. But because it is an anthrax attack, public health officials must act quickly. Many lives can be saved if people start taking medication within 48 hours of exposure. Until officials determined who was most likely exposed to the anthrax spores, public health officials plan to provide medication to everyone in the community. Your local public health agency has been planning for such a scenario by working with state and federal officials in preparing to receive life-saving medications from the Strategic National Stockpile, the nation's largest federal repository of medicines and medical supplies.
Where
When
is that?
requested or as directed, the Strategic National Stockpile has the ability to get medication to several large cities at the same time to support state and local response to an emergency. If there is a public health emergency in your area, your local health department has a plan to help you and your family receive these important medicines. Health officials will open public sites to provide medications to protect the people in your community. These sites are sometimes called points of dispensing, or pods. Pods will be located within your community in safe, familiar places, such as schools or convention centers. When pods need to be opened, their locations will be announced by your public health or emergency management personnel. In an emergency, you can find out where pods are located and what to bring to the pods by watching your local TV stations, listening to the radio, reading the newspaper, checking your local health department's website, or word of mouth from trusted community leaders. These sources of information will also provide you with details about the emergency and symptoms exposed people may experience. If you have any of the listed symptoms, you should see your doctor or go to a hospital and get medicines for treatment. Pods will contain medicine to prevent you from getting sick, but not to treat you if you already have symptoms. Since pods will be used to provide medication to a large amount of people in a short time period, the process at the pod is designed to be simple. You will be asked to fill out a form that includes some basic information about your medical history. Once you have completed your form, a trained pod staff member will review it and determine which medication is best for you. In some cases, you may be able to pick up medications for your entire household, including your children. So make sure you bring information on your family's medical history, including your children's weights. This will ensure you get the proper medications. Also at the pod, you will receive information about the medicine and a number you can call to ask any additional questions. Although the process is designed to be simple and quick, there will be a large number of people at the pods. Please be patient as you wait. Pod staff will do everything possible to get medication to everyone. We hope there is never a public health emergency that requires pods to open, but if there is, be assured the process is in place to get medicine to you and your family as quickly as possible.
So that's it in a nutshell for the movie. I have a PowerPoint presentation that goes into all of this in detail, and you have the slides printed out one at a time. We can go through it. Just I'm going to skim through it because there's so much here. You could just spend the whole night on it, or if you have questions now, I can answer some questions now, like where the stockpile is. There are 12 secret locations around the country where this stuff is, and I don't even know, Frank, we don't know where they are. We'll never know, but it's there.
Is there enough antibiotic for?
That's a secret.
It's a secret, yeah.
But is there enough?
Yep, well, they say there is, and later on in this presentation, you'll see how much there is. But
And when they talked about the pods that look like they run very smoothly on the movie, is there trained staff here in Essex County to put those pods, or whatever we call them in Massachusetts, to work within the 48-hour?
You have to do it in Raleigh.
Yes, the trained staff
Raleigh.
comes from your town, and that's Frank's job to with my help, to put together these plans, and we're doing it for every town. And it is a big job. I'm doing, every year there's audits of our plans, and the CDC comes in and audits them. This year they're auditing Boxford, and they're coming on February 10th, and I've spent 2 months with the Boxford health agent, you know, trying to identify who in Boxford would staff this, and that's what every town needs to do it.
How's our plan? Where are we?
It's coming along. It's a lot of work, like Cheryl was saying, but it's continuously changing too. The state every year suggests different things that should be in there, so it's continuously being updated, and we do review it every year and give ourselves a score on what we need to work on. But the staffing is a challenge. I mean,
It's a challenge for these little towns. I don't even think the CDC appreciates what a challenge it is here, because most other states have counties, and maybe not at the state, but the counties would do this. So, and they are moving towards a regional approach. It is thankfully going to be changing, because they're realizing this is a little ambitious to think that every town could do this, and so they're going to be asking us to identify regional places. And I think, like for instance, Topsville, Boxford, Middleton would say Masconomet. That's a good start. Even that is probably, I don't know.
and some of them we could use Triton as our regional if we go that direction, which
It's moving that
moving
way.
that way.
So, do you want to show your show?
Yeah. So this was put together by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health a year ago to explain emergency dispensing sites, and it's meant to be, they want to accomplish 3 things: define an EDS, review the incident command system, and describe the strategic national stockpile. EDS planning, we need to have a written plan which identifies roles, job descriptions, job action sheets. There needs to be sign-off from all the participants, especially the chief elected official in the town. There's a review process, and these plans should be exercised and drilled, which we've drilled parts of them, but not the whole shebang. And EDS is a place to go for antibiotics or vaccine during an emergency. The goal is to get antibiotics or vaccines to 100% of the population within 24 hours. Originally I had said 48 hours, but you'll see the difference in a minute. So each community will determine how many EDSs they'll need. Some cities will need more than one. We've determined in these little towns one would do it. And there will be used an incident command system. And Frank told me you all took ICS 100, and so that's good, because at least everybody will be talking the same language of how to run the EDS. And incident command system works during incidents because it creates clear lines of authority, and there's a very clear structure. And the key concepts, as you will recall, there's a chain of command. So it's like military, where the chain of command flows downward. There's a span of control, so no one person has any more than 7 people reporting to that person. And yet you can use the incident command system to scale the incident up or down. You can even use it if you're planning a party. You use the incident command system. You're the mom. You say the party's going to happen. Okay, your job is to get the cake. You set the table. You send out the invitations. You greet the guests. Everybody has a job. That's really as simple as it is. So it's flexible. And then this is your very basic structure. of an incident command system. The incident commander would be the person in charge of the EDS. Could be Frank. You need a public information officer because, as we know, getting information to the public is very important. You need a safety officer who is there to assure the safety of everyone at the EDS. Even to the point of, you think of safety as in terms of police, but it's things like this staff member has been working for 12 hours straight. They're not functioning well. They need to take a break. That's a job of the safety officer. The liaison officer, their job is to be a liaison to other groups. So let's say the Council on Aging needs to reach out to people you might work with that group, or let's say for some reason the Red Cross needed to be called in for some reason, that liaison officer would work with all these outside groups. And then the four key sections are operations, planning, logistics, and finance. Operations is the core mission, which is to get the pills from the truck to the people. Planning, they look at the overall scenario. What's the timeline? How are things going? They look at more of the big picture. How's it going to go? Logistics is stuff. So, do you need walkie-talkies? That's their job to get the walkie-talkies. Do you need more volunteers? They'll get more volunteers. Finance and administration keeps track of not just what money was spent, but time. So all these volunteers that come in need to sign in and be tracked, and who knows, there could be reimbursement down the road. But because at the end you need to write a big report. How many volunteers came? How much time did they spend, etc. The job just gets bigger and bigger. So
Has this protocol ever been used anywhere in the country yet?
yes, it's been used. I think that the easiest one to give an example of would be a hepatitis A outbreak, and there was a little fuzzy on it, but it was quite a few years ago. Maybe it was in Quincy or someplace around a bigger city, and it was a big restaurant, and a lot of people were exposed to hepatitis A, and they had to get immune globulin to people, and they set up huge clinics like this, and they sent out messages far and wide: if you ate at this restaurant, and within a certain time, and it's still within a certain time period, you can come in and get this shot. So in public health, I think that's the main thing that I can think of.
Yeah, it's used in the chiefs, from what I understand, police and fire, they use this not even knowing that they're using it. They have a very structured way of handling things during emergencies, and they're really using this method already.
They use it already.
Yeah.
It started, the incident command system. Were you asking incident command or EDS?
Well, I was thinking EDS.
Yeah. Well, another place where it was used sort of as in the H1N1 flu epidemic. I don't know if you had clinics.
We did.
Yeah. So they, that would be like what an EDS was like, but of course, and a lot of my examples are from Topsfield and Boxford, but Topsfield, Boxford, Middleton combined to do the H1N1 shots, and they were very proud of themselves because they did 1,200 shots over a span of a couple of months. Well, that's great, but there are 6,000 people. In Topsfield, we're talking 24 hours. There's almost no comparison, you know. It's a lot. But now this goes into what you would do to set up your EDS. You choose a site. It's got to have be well known to the population, and it's got to have parking and restrooms and water and all that stuff. And I believe in Raleigh you've chosen a school.
Yep, Pine Grove School.
You have to think ahead of time about the site security. How would you control traffic, control people coming in and out of the building? There's a whole plan in place to use badges to credential your volunteers. You can, and also you would definitely need your police, fire, or security people to help with this. The layout, you'll see a picture of layout in a minute, but you basically want to have people entering one way, going through, and leaving in a loop, and not creating a chaos. So basically they would enter, this is a schematic drawing, but at the top of the picture they would enter. If you look to the left side, right away, if they're not healthy to begin with and they're very sick, they wouldn't go through this. They would go to a first aid station. If they're critically ill, they would go right to the hospital. And this is all in your packet. You can look, yeah. But if they're just normal, they would enter. They would get their paperwork. Then you'd say, well, some people are going to be upset. Well, they might need support. So there's some kind of emotional support for them, or maybe they don't speak English very well, they can't read the papers. They need that kind of support. They're going to go to support. But eventually they come back in and they get their treatment. The treatment would be given, if you've got children with you, they would go to one place. If they're just adults, they would go to another place. So you'd have to have special considerations for children, and then you might need a waiting area if you wanted to observe the people for a certain period of time before they left, and then they leave. This gets, very, very detailed, very, very complicated, as you can imagine. So with anthrax, they're planning for the worst case scenario. They're saying treat 100% of the population within 2 days of them being exposed. But day one, you have to allow 12 hours for they call them medical countermeasures, to be delivered from the stockpile. And then you need to allow another 12 hours to vaccinate or treat your first responder people, so that they don't get sick and that they can continue to function. So then that really leaves you only 24 hours to do the rest of your town. You take your number of people in your town and divide it by 12, and that's how many people you have to see per hour. And then this slide is just another way of schematically showing day one and day two of this scenario.
So you don't have a subway. It's good.
What?
You don't have a subway anyway.
Yeah, no subway. I know, really. And then if it is anthrax, it would be pills. The good thing is you don't have to bring everybody in your household. We would be looking at head of household coming. So that if you divide your population by like 2.5 people, you're looking at a whole lot less people that have to come through the line. But if it's a vaccine, so let's say it was a smallpox scenario, everyone would have to come. The thing is, you might have more time to do this. It wouldn't be just the two days. And then these are just some pictures of, because people have drilled on these things and they've set them up in a school, and so a school is good because it has a hallway where people can wait. It has different rooms where you can set up these different stations that you're going to need. There's always parking, and there's usually a traffic pattern to come and go from the school. And there's a million policies that apply, but some of them are keep families together, don't ask children to serve as interpreters for their family, which brings to mind, whoops, gotta have some interpreters. Don't overwhelm the people, try to be as reassuring as possible, and these are very, very general guidelines. And then some things to think about before opening your clinic. And I mean, this is just, there's so much to think about. Oh, so I will say one word about supplies. We have in this area the Topsfield Regional Medical Reserve Corps, which doesn't, there's 11 towns, doesn't quite match up with the 14. However, there's a trailer that's stored at the Topsfield DPW yard. It's quite large. I would say it's about as long as this room, and maybe about half the size of this room. And there's all kinds of stuff in there. There's all the forms in there that you would need. There's medical supplies. There's things like bullhorns. So there's signage that you can put in your parking lot. So not every community has to collect all this stuff, and it would be towed. I think we have an agreement for the Topsfield DPW to tow it wherever it would be needed in Region 3A. Of course, if you had multiple, if every town had to set up this clinic, that a little bit falls apart.
So it would probably never leave Topsfield.
What's that?
It would probably never leave Topsfield.
If we all had to set them up, I don't know. I mean, we would do our best, I think.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. I think at that point there would be someone at the trailer, and people would be calling there, saying, "I need this," and they'd get whatever they needed to that town.
Right.
If that did happen.
Yeah.
But it would not
Yeah.
be easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is all very. Your mind could just be reeling from all of this stuff.
And probably as you go along, hit the major points of each slide.
Yes, I will. Okay. And so then, of course, during your clinic, there's other important things. As we said, is everybody getting enough rest? Do you should we open another site? There's all kinds of questions. And then, even after everybody got their medicine, you're not done, because you have to demobilize all of this. And that has its own procedures. Some people have asked, well, what about, could we have a drive-through clinic? And that's a thought. And there are advantages, but then there are disadvantages, and certainly in New England, weather would be your major disadvantage. But at the town of Sandwich actually did a drive-through clinic for H1N1, and they have picked the pictures to prove it, and they've written all kinds of reports to say what went well and what didn't go well. So there are models, but I don't know if any of us in 3A are considering a drive-through. And then another thing to think about is what they call a closed pod. So that would be, think about, there are certain people in your town that you don't necessarily want to drag out to your EDS, such as if you had a nursing home, or even think about if you had a college, or if you had a big
Prison.
A prison, exactly. So those things, and we have not, to my knowledge, in 3A done very much with closed pods, because you can't just say, well, prison, you're a closed pod, here's your stuff. You're supposed to go to them in advance, do this whole thing with them, and get them to figure out how they would do this in their facility. So that's something to think about. So there's a lot of planning with that. And then this is just a schematic, if it was a company, how it would work. So now we get to the strategic national stockpile. It was actually established in 1999, and of course it has grown, and it's run by the federal government. It's staged in 12 undisclosed locations around the country, and it assures that it can get stuff to any state within 12 hours of a request. The governor needs to request it. It's a very formal procedure.
What federal branch of government controls all this?
It says it's DHS and CDC.
Oh, here it is, manager cloud, DHS, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's two branches that
Yep.
work together. If it was a state, if the request initiated with the state, I mean, the governor would request it, but one of the questions the CDC loves to ask when they come is, what if this happened right here in your town, Frank? You know, who do you call? You know, every town has an emergency director, and in your town, I think it's
That's the fire chief.
fire chief.
Yes.
So they are the ones who would need to request it from Rowley, and then from there goes upwards to the governor. And you have to make sure it's secure, so the U.S. Marshal Service would be in charge of this stuff from the time it left the federal secret place to the time it arrived in your state. And then it hands it over to the state. There are not just antibiotics and vaccines in there, there's also chemical agent antidotes, things like morphine, there's medical supplies, and other equipment. There's a whole other 22-minute movie that I'm not showing you about, which really goes into
Well, we'll
this.
start that at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I know, we have to get the popcorn for that. But what they don't bring you is mundane things like clipboards and pens and snacks and papers. Those are up to us too.
Right.
And that's the type of stuff that we have in the trailer, well, not the snacks, but. So here's what it looks like. They have these things called a 12-hour push pack. And in each push pack, there's enough antibiotics to provide 10 days of prophylaxis for 500,000 people. And it's Cipro, Doxy, and amoxicillin. And so the picture on the left is what it would look like. That is how it would fit in a wide-body airplane. And then it breaks down, and they would need, so here it is again. That's what it would look like configured to ride in an airplane. And I guess here it is sort of sitting piece by piece somewhere. And it says,
And each one of those is a pack?
yeah,
I
each-
guess.
Packs are individuals in that.
I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, that's what I mean, each,
Yeah,
inside,
inside, yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't see,
hundreds of packs there.
cut across there, yeah.
So this particular thing you're looking at fits a wide-body
There's a
aircraft,
person.
and it would take 8 tractor-trailer trucks to transport this stuff. So let's say they fly this into Logan, and then 8 trucks back up and deliver it out. And I mean, that's like it. I didn't put this together, so it ends very abruptly. But they're saying
Right.
it's an all hazards approach. I don't know why they threw that in at the end. They didn't know how to end it.
Well, no,
Kind of negative, isn't it?
that gave us a good overview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And you say Rowley's working along, a good member community,
Yes.
plugging away.
Anyway.
And what we'll do is, we'll put this in Frank's job description, kind of as a little performance thing, so see how every year we're moving ahead.
Mhm.
And anything we can do to help you, or?
Well, it's really to help Frank. I mean, it's interesting because one of the things they want is for people in the town or somebody to come out and train people. They've been telling that for years, and this was only put together last year because we didn't really have. I mean, we needed some help with it, so this came out. So this satisfies actually a deliverable by, don't forget to sign the
Oh, yes,
special.
yeah, we got that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we will put the agenda and the sign-in sheet and the minutes into the plan, because if the CDC wants to know if we did it, that's our proof.
Mhm.
What they then want to do is identify all these positions, who in the town would do them, and give this training to them. And there's even more, I mean, the training gets more and more specific, so there's training for instance, inventory management, which just came out again last year. And it's pretty specific when the pills come, and then you need to use a spreadsheet, and you need to account for the inventory. And then you could see in the movie the people putting little sticky things on there and tearing things off. I mean, they say we're going to have what they call just-in-time training. So, so they're going to tell us what the dose of doxycycline is, and each pill, like, they'll have to record which lot number I gave you, and you, and you, so that if there was ever a problem, I mean, I'm sure it's when you really drill down to the details, it's going to be tricky.
And it will take many, many years, if not decades, to pull this all together.
Yep. And I mean, there are still many questions, like for children, they can't take those big pills. Now, I was just on a webinar from the SNS has its own website, which is where this movie came from. And Frank can give you the password if you want it. You can watch other watch other things.
I think John should be.
I think
You could be our movie reviewer.
I'll be the movie reviewer. I'll be the Roger Ebert.
Yeah. Yeah, the topic for that was children. What are they going to do? Because they have pill crushing instructions, but it will go by the weight of the child.
Mm.
And so, do you know your weight of your child? Oops, I don't. You know, here you go. Here's your pills. Here's your instructions. Okay, next. You know.
What do you do if somebody's allergic to everything that they're donating?
Exactly. I mean,
I had a patient today that's allergic to all three.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They might be not.
How much money do they make? Isn't that a lottery? A dentist lottery?
No, it's amazing to see what people
Are
are
you an
allergic to.
anti-Semite?
Well, thank you very much.
You're very
This has
welcome.
been very helpful,
Yeah.
Okay.
and
Well,
we
I
certainly
went to
support it.
I went to some medical reserve corps meetings, but it was too confusing. There were
Yeah.
power struggles, I think, and it was hard. So nothing happened. We tried to get lists of people to come, but then we had nothing to tell them.
I know. We have a new
Do that.
coordinator.
Yeah.
There's a new coordinator, and working out of Topsfield, and he's a former fire chief from Ipswich. So he's a great guy, and I think he's
Who's
his name is Art Howe.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know who he is.
Oh, good. And so, hopefully things will move along. But you might end up being called upon to be a greeter at an EDS. They're going to need like all hands on deck if this ever happens. Somebody to hand out.
We're very lucky. We have some wonderful nurses down here at the Council on Aging. They can make anything happen.
What's the
They're
timeline?
awesome.
What's the timeline that you kind of
But they
plan
don't like the
all this to
formality.
work?
They don't like the training.
Trains, yeah.
I mean,
They like
it's
the
not working
formality.
now, or it's really not set up completely now, but what's a reasonable,
It's supposed to be set up. It is supposed to be set up.
so,
I mean, we've on paper they're set up.
okay.
It's like family.
But realistically, it's going to need a lot more.
One thing, it needs constant tweaking, because just when you identify your 24 people that you need to run these things, somebody will change and you need to figure out a new person. And don't forget, so
Right.
Frank has there's a chart, there's, I don't know how many people, maybe, let's say 12 people.
Yeah.
But there's a primary staff and a backup staff.
Mhm.
And why you need both is because you're gonna run, your primary staff's gonna run it for 12 hours and your backup staff's gonna come in. So they can't really be the same people.
Mhm.
Some people have said, well, I'll be the incident commander for the primary, but then I'll be the PIO for the backup. Well, it's not gonna work because
Go to sleep.
you gotta sleep. So, the biggest thing you guys can do is help Frank identify people in the town, like, who could really run this. Like, does anybody know a pharmacist that would like to put their name down? Or the public information officer would be probably the chairman of the selectmen, or in a town would be a mayor or something like that. They have to be sort of willing to know their name is down for that, and get some, and there's a training that you can take too. So there's no end of things that you can do, but that you made a good start by just being willing to listen in depth to a topic that I think is rather difficult to listen to.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes.
You did a very good job.
Yep. Thanks.
Why don't we take a 5-minute break just to, why don't you help break this down?
Are you going to recess?
Yeah, we are going into recess. We've got an agenda somewhere here.
Yes, we do.
So, we're back with our meeting,
Back in reality.
and let's see here, we got let's see. Where is my
Septic repair.
agenda? Pardon? Yeah, I'm just looking for the agenda.
Oh, should be, might be on the back.
Did you write on
Might be
that?
under, oh, okay. Let's see, well, I guess we'll start with what you have to present, Frank,
Yeah.
a quick septic loan program
Yeah. it's-
report.
Yeah, it's our quarterly report that just ended the end of the year, December 31st. You all have a copy in front of you there. Our beginning balance from the end of our last report back in September was $368,417.18. This past quarter, we did get an advance from the Water Pollution Abatement Trust. We did receive that last $200,000 that came in on October 25th. And that was the last of the $750,000 that we borrowed back in.
So to get any more, we have to go to
We have
town
to-
meeting.
Yes, exactly. And I would suggest kind of keeping an eye on things and seeing how we're doing in the next couple months, and then we can look at it again. And then you can decide if you want to borrow more money or if we're okay for another year.
Mhm.
But right now, we're good, but we'll see how the spring goes. So anyway, we did receive that $200,000. This last quarter, you'll see the details on page 2, the disbursements to the homeowners. We had 2 loans that last quarter. And like I said, the breakdown is on page 2, which did total $46,956.51. As far as administrative costs, there was some legal services for the $200,000 note that we drew down, and that was $2,200, which left us with a ending balance for the end of the quarter of $519,260.67. You'll see below that with our plans for disbursements for next quarter. We do have one application that we're expecting to come back as soon as the weather breaks, probably early spring. There are a couple of other applications out there that we're waiting for. That's basically it. What we'll do now is we'll take this and forward it to the treasurer and the accounting office for them to verify the numbers, and I'll send it off to the trust.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on?
Nope.
Okay.
And let's see, the next thing is request from David Roberts from the Roberts and Son Funeral Home.
Yes.
Want to give us the quick background on this?
Yep, you'll see a letter in your packet from Mr. Roberts. Basically, he's asking if the board could appoint or support the appointment of Donald Russo as the limited health agent, similar to the town clerk and her staff right now, and David Roberts himself, for the purpose of just issuing burial permits would be the sole thing he does. Like I said, right now we do have 4 people right now, which is the town clerk and her 2 assistants, and also David Roberts. The reason for this is to, if they need to issue a burial permit during off hours of the town clerk's hours, David Roberts was available, but this would give him the opportunity to go on vacation, to be someone to fill in for him if he was out. And Mr. Russo is currently licensed with the state, and his license is in good standing.
So this seems like a reasonable,
I think so. This would give him some flexibility.
so would someone like to make a motion to,
Yeah, I move to approve the Roberts and Son Funeral Home request to appoint Donald Russo as limited health agent. John Melcher.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay,
What I'll do now is I'll forward a letter to the selectman's office saying that you voted to support him, and
Yep.
they will make the formal appointment.
Yep.
okay. So next up is this request to extend the extension of, let's see, Permit Extension Act limits.
Yeah, this is more just to see how the board feels about a policy concerning the Permanent Extension Act. You'll see in your packet there's a little memo from our office. The Permanent Extension Act allows existing approvals valid from August 15, 2008 to August 15th of 2012 to be extended until the month and day 4 years after the expiration. These are mainly in concerning our disposal system construction permit, the permit to construct a septic system. Normally, when we call it DSCP is issued, it's valid for 3 years, and
I thought it was 2, no?
3 years, yeah. And the Title V does allow the Board of Health to grant a 1-year extension, which you have done many times in the past. Basically, what the office just wants to be clear on is that it's up to the board whether, because of this Permanent Extension Act, people were given additional years on their permits. Now, it's up to the board if they want to still leave it open, that they can individually come in and ask the board for that 1-year extension on top of the
3 years?
Actually, on top of the 3 years, but also on top of the permanent, the years from the Extension Act, depending on when the permit was issued. They would have to come in on still on an individual basis, each property. So it wouldn't be just a blanket yes or no. We have about...
So the decision-making, so this only gives them the right to come and request an extension.
Right. In other words, some towns may say, well, you've got the extension through the Permanent Extension Act. We're not even going to open that opportunity for you. But there are, there's been a downturn in the economy, and a lot of people are having problems selling their properties. So, and it would be a case-by-case thing. We have about 40 or so permits that could be affected. Most of them probably won't be. Hopefully, the work will be done. But there are some cases where properties aren't selling, the plans have been done and approved and paid for, and like I said, nothing's really happening. So there's a few of those that may come forward and ask the board for another year extension. So we just didn't know if the board wanted to set a policy saying, yes, you can still submit a request to have a 1-year extension when your expiration comes up.
Seems reasonable.
I think so. I think so.
Do you think it's reasonable?
Well, okay.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Your turn, Susan.
It's my turn. I move to, let's see.
This is way too hard for me to do.
It's hard, isn't
Well,
it? No,
Let me see the
I
chairman
move
do
that
it.
we allow,
Well, you can't, you're not supposed to make these.
that we allow for the 1-year extension.
Yeah, for people to,
Of the DSCP after the expiration of the permit.
Second.
Second.
okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And again, they still will come before you.
Yeah.
So next,
Just remember we
a
did
quick
that.
update on this change in the mosquito spraying notification
Yes.
policy.
Okay, yeah, this year mosquito control is making some changes on if you want your,
Speak up a little more,
yeah,
if you would, a little higher volume.
sure. This year, the board on mosquito control wants a little different method of excluding your property from mosquito spraying if you choose. Beginning this year, let me go back. In the past, they were a little more lenient about if you know, we do targeted spraying here in town, and we're going to do a certain street. In the past, the residents could submit a letter to us or the town clerk saying we'd like to be exempt, and when the truck goes by that property, they would turn off the spray. Now they're being a little more strict about it and actually following the letter of the law saying that if you want that, you have to send a, let me see if I can get the right wording here. If you wish to have your property exempt, they would have to send a certified letter to the town clerk no later than March 1st of that year requesting the exemption. And this is going to be effective from April 1st of that year through March 31st of the following year. And it should be done after the first of the year, between January 1st and March 1st. So basically, the resident would send a certified letter to the town clerk with this request. And actually, we have a template here made up that has basically all the information that we need: the date, the owner's name, the address, the type of mosquito control applications to be excluded. It makes it a little bit simpler, so people don't have to really overthink this. They can just sort of fill out this form, send it certified to the town clerk, and they'll be put on the list. So we're going to be, this just, a formal press release was just sent out today, as a matter of fact. You'll see it in your packet from Northeast Mosquito Control. You can read that through, but it's basically in a nutshell saying what I just said.
So they're gonna do this.
Yeah, they're gonna, the town
That's
clerks.
the new policy.
That's the new policy, and they're gonna be, but in the past, if it was later in the year, they would still take it, get it into their
But that's
database.
over.
That's over. What
So-
you're saying.
How are you and the office gonna make this public to the public?
Yep, it'll be on cable, it'll be on the website. We're gonna advertise it the same way we do our collection events, you know, similar type of advertising.
It should be a massive, as
Yes.
much as you can.
Exactly. And I believe mosquito control is also gonna do a lot of outreach to let people know about this change.
Do we have many people that
We
request?
yes, I'm glad you asked that. We had 2 people last year, and we're actually gonna reach out to those 2 people personally and let them know about this change and make sure that they get their paperwork in on top of doing general advertising for everyone.
That's a problem. I mean, if they're a beekeeper and they're on 1 acre of land and you shut the truck off by their house, the wind blows, it's
Right.
difficult,
It is.
very difficult.
And what'll happen, mosquito control will generate the final list for each town by March 15th, and we'll have that list. And the town clerk, of course, will have it. And it'll be, like I said, put into their GPS so they know where these properties are.
And it might be good after the list is formalized for mosquito control. It might be good for you in the office, because there's so few people, to give a phone call and tell the landowner that they're on the, you know, they're signed up
Exactly.
correctly.
Right, yeah, because like I said,
Yeah.
there probably
Okay.
won't be too many. And just one other thing, if there's a case of someone's renting the property, the decision is ultimately the owner's decision. So you might have an issue where the tenant may or may not want it. They might be on a different page, but it's ultimately up to the owner, and that's something that we'll have to work out.
All right, thank you.
And also, in your packet below that, you'll see the proposed budget for FY15 for mosquito control. They're going to have a discussion about it on Friday, February 14th, 2014 in Newbury.
Oh, that's Valentine's Day, I can't go.
I gave you all, you don't have to look at it now, but I just gave everyone a copy of it so you can look at it. If you have any questions or concerns, you can let us know and we can forward them to mosquito control.
Yeah, we had no concerns. We were pleased last year,
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And this is the overall budget for the entire district.
Right.
Not specific to Raleigh. We'll get into that later on, but this is for the, like I said, the whole district, which covers everything from, payroll to
Helicopters.
office supplies, everything, exactly. But if there's anything there that you have a question on, just let me know, and I will forward it to mosquito control for an answer. But again, that's to look at when you have more time.
All right, and then next is, the town report.
Yeah, that's in your
Report?
packet to take a look at. See if you have any questions.
Well, have we reviewed the report?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And do we want to approve it, accept it?
Yep.
The motion?
Not sure how to word it, but John Motion, I move to accept this report undated
Oh, 2013.
2013. Any second?
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, and now we move right to the minutes of October 21st.
I move to accept the minutes of October 21st, 2013. John Motion.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
let's see, we need to set a meeting date for our next meeting. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, oh, did someone sign?
What, she's working on it
Oh,
right
she is,
now.
okay.
Oh, here we go.
So, what do you think? Let's see, it's, I understand you're gonna be away for a while?
Yeah, I'll be away until February 19th.
Okay, and I go away February 25th. So why don't, maybe we could try to, can we fit a Monday in between those dates? So we're all here?
There's a Monday holiday somewhere, isn't there?
Oh, we got a calendar here. Let's see here, February, what, you said you'd be back the 19th?
Mm-hmm.
And I go the 25th, so we could meet the 24th, but that's probably Washington's birthday. But
I can do it.
I don't really celebrate President's Day that much. You know, there's no big meals
Frank
or
might
anything.
not want to
I
have that
think it's
day to work.
A legal holiday,
I
so you don't
believe
want to work? Well, okay.
Keep that in mind, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna mark that down. Well, then maybe, I'll be away till, the 17th of March, so you guys will maybe have a meeting the 3rd of March?
Sure.
You be here, John?
Well, I can't commit time.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. I mean,
We
I'm
can-
about to turn 69. I don't know where I'm gonna be.
Robert's gonna have a,
I could be over at Frank Roberts.
I've got someone to sign you up now on
Exactly, yeah.
weekends.
I know.
all right, so
We can
that'll be the
look
3rd.
Yeah, we'll look at things. and see.
Even Gidget could be dragging me out of the house by my feet.
He'll take you out in the red Corvette.
Okay, so is that, the other thing was the concerns of the board. Are there any?
No.
Heard anything around town?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, Jim.
No, I haven't.
I've been around,
What's
so.
happening down here with the old house that burned?
I have no idea.
Anyone
Yeah,
know?
that's,
Allegedly, it's been sold.
I
Oh,
believe that's on the selectmen's agenda tonight
Oh.
as well. They're-
because I've heard people say, is that ever coming down? It could be buzzing.
Allegedly, it was sold a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they're discussing it with the selectmen's.
Okay.
One concern I have, Frank, does this Xerox machine do
They
two-sided
do,
copy?
yeah, they do.
Well, why don't we
Yeah.
establish a policy that we
We normally
cut our
do,
paper
yeah.
use in half?
We normally do, right? Was there something in there that wasn't,
I think everything.
okay,
I think everything was
okay,
one-sided.
okay.
You already signed that, okay. This one,
Oh, a few bills, all right?
this done.
Have you got any issues, Frank?
No?
Good. Well, a sweater shirt issue.
That's another topic, yeah.
Sweater keeps it
Nothing.
warm, doesn't it?
Nothing, but it did keep us from getting the top award in Essex County.
I think we must have the top award in Raleigh,
I
don't
think
we?
the fashion just stopped, but we're not. in
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
Exactly.
All right, we ready to call it a night?
Yep.
Yes.
Move to adjourn?
Please do.
I'll second that at 8:17.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.